So good, so good, so good.
Everything you want for summer is at Nordstrom Rack stores now and up to 60% off. Stock up and save on the brands you love like Vince, Sam Edelman, Frame, and Free People. Join the Nordy Club to unlock exclusive discounts, shop new arrivals first, and more. Plus, buy online and pick up at your favorite Rack store for free. Great brands, great prices. That's why you Rack.
At first, I didn't think it was real. I woke up to this blinding light, and I was transported to another place. Pluto TV. Then I heard a voice.
Come with me if you want to live.
There were thousands of movies and shows, and they were all free.
The truth is
It's just so beautiful.
On Pluto TV, free streaming of Terminator 2, Fringe, Arrow, The 100, and The X-Files may cause excitement, loss of sleep, and sudden belief in extraterrestrials. No credit cards or alien encounters necessary. Pluto TV. Stream now, pay never.
Hi everybody, and welcome to the Dr. Psych Mom Show. Today I'm going to be talking about the common issue in midlife and around perimenopause of a woman saying she has no more fucks to give. You've obviously heard of this if you're not living under a rock. She just is all tired of giving her F's or fucks, depending if she likes to curse or not, to everybody, and she's tired of having them about everything, and she just has none left to give. And a lot of guys, especially on the more preoccupied side of the attachment spectrum, can take this very personally. You know, so you don't care about me anymore? Do you not care about our relationship? What do you mean when you say you don't give a flying fuck about anybody? Does that include me? And I'm going to explain what it does and doesn't mean and why it is such a universal female experience just as soon as I tell you to subscribe. And my most recent subscriber episode was, do you want privacy or are you an addict? And that was pretty good, honestly. Sparked some discussion in the private group, the secret group. And as always, join my secret Facebook group if you want more interaction with me and other smart people. The small paywall allows people to be private, ironically, given that most recent thing. Privacy or are you an addict? So they're all addicts. No, I'm kidding. Well, the people don't really like when their mother-in-law sees them posting comments about marriage on Facebook, or their best friend, or their husband's boss, or, you know, any of these random people that see what you write on Facebook. So if you don't want that, but yet you do want to engage on these topics, come into the secret group. Okay, so when your wife decides she doesn't have any more fucks to give, happens around her 40s. And this is a lot of my clients. It's me too, because I'm 45. And this means your estrogen is dropping. Estrogen is the caretaking hormone. And you used to care so much what everybody thought, ridiculous amounts. Oh my God, what happens if I make the wrong kind of cookies for the bake sale? What happens if I don't dress right for the mom's night? What happens if my husband doesn't think I made a good decision about what babysitter to hire? I mean, literally stuff that nobody could give a shit about if they zoom out. And so much therapy with younger women is saying, you don't have to care about that. Nobody cares about that. You know, like what you think they care about, judging you in the way that you fear that they judge you. Why do you think that you're being judged so much? Is it your upbringing? It's usually a very judgmental upbringing. It's usually low self-esteem. It's usually anxiety or depression or, you know, thinking about yourself as worse than everybody, an inferiority complex and imposter syndrome, right? But it's also youth, you know, and when you're young, you really want to fit into a pack. And this is obviously along a normal distribution because there are more and less confident younger people. But overall, younger people are not as confident about, you know, how they're showing up in the world and what others think about them than older people. And this isn't just experience because it happens kind of quick. So a lot of it is hormonal and age-related and biological. And when you're not at a place anymore where you're going to be making more babies, some of the things that seemed really, really important to you just don't. And the whole not making babies thing goes along with this. It's all the same change. It's all the same hormonal perimenopause change where your sex hormones drop and you just do not feel anymore like you need to be making more babies and figuring out how you fit into a group in the same kind of a way. The hierarchy, the ranking system, all these things that are totally normal and adaptive. Like, of course, you want to be the prettiest you could be because you want to get the best partner you could get because you want to make the best baby you can make. And that's evolution and that makes sense. But when you're not making any more babies, then you don't really give a shit, about so many things like that. And, if you're young and everything seems like every decision you make can lead to a totally different outcome in your life, and some of those outcomes are biological. They are literally, what children are you going to have? What family are you going to make? Based on your partner, based on where you live, you get obsessed with the community you live in, not, like the neighbors, like what house do you want to live in? What clubs and groups you want to join? I remember joining all these moms groups, stroller strides, all these things. It all seems so important because you're shaping the next generation. You're shaping your offspring with every decision you make. Then you get older, your hormones change, you're not making any more offspring, and the offspring you have are older. And you can kind of see that they're going to be who they're going to be. And the whole this whole caring so much what every single person thought of you, in retrospect, a lot of it seems misguided, a lot of it seems unimportant, and there's this huge biological shift to not caring. Now, does this mean that you don't care about your husband? No, but does it mean that you don't care as much about his opinion? Yes. And that could be really, really positive because there are so many women that are so obsessed with what their husband thinks and his judgment and is he going to look down on me, and they're hiding, purchases. And I'm not talking about shopping addiction because that, I have recently talked about shopping addiction. And so, it's not good to be having to hide purchases because you're making a million purchases. But I'm just saying, like, the wrong purchase or like ridiculous things the woman, thinks, is he gonna like my shirt? Who cares if he likes your damn shirt, right? But people be like so invested. What do I wear for the date? And what do I this? And you look pretty much the same no matter what. But, people don't think that when they're young, and that is normal. It wouldn't be normal for a 17, 18-year-old girl to say, honestly, no matter what prom dress I pick, I'll be fine. I look pretty much the same, Like, it just doesn't make a bit of a difference. That would seem like super, super bizarre, right? And that would be developmentally inappropriate. To not have a single shred of skin in the game as to how you look as an adolescent would be very, very unusual, because that's the time where you're supposed to care the most. As I say all the time, there's something called adolescent narcissism, and it's just typical and developmentally appropriate. But on the other hand, if I really gave a shit what I wore to work every day, or even to a big event, quite honestly, that too would be somewhat inappropriate, right? Because unless it's the hugest event in the whole world, you're going to get inaugurated as the president, okay, cool, but on a regular basis, what you put on your body doesn't fucking matter. And then you start to really understand that at a deep level when you're older. So there is this big shift and you don't really care. You don't sweat the small stuff. And this could be transformative for women who spent their whole lives sweating the small stuff and really, really caring about all of this, what society thinks and what my friend thinks and what my mother thinks and what my husband thinks and what everybody thinks. And it doesn't make a difference. You want to be kind. You want to be in a loving relationship with your husband. But just because he's like a dude, like a lot of women grow up and they're like, oh, a guy must know better than me about, let's say, money, or he must know better than me about, facts of some sort, or he must know better. And then you get to your 40s and you're like, oh, no, that isn't how that works. People of one gender, unless it's like how to pee standing up or what it's like to be a man, he doesn't necessarily just know better because he's a guy. And a lot of women that have spent all their life deferring to men, this is like hugely, hugely empowering. And you just start to realize that individuals know different things and somebody does not necessarily know better than you because of their gender. And that's really cool. It's really cool to not have to have low self-esteem anymore, especially about career, money, things like that, just because of your gender. And so many women think like this. I used to think like this, that I couldn't really understand money as well as a guy could, and that was wrong and stupid, and misguided. And I learned it because my mother felt like that, and my father felt like that, and men did used to get taught more about money, and women couldn't even get a mortgage or a credit card without a male co-signing it until like 1974. So of course people thought that. When my mother got married, she couldn't get a credit card without my father on it. But now times have changed. But even before times changed, your 40s and midlife was always a time for women when they grew more confident. Obviously, people used to have kids younger. So by this time, many women were already grandmothers. And at that point, you turn into this wise elder and you start to have your own confidence about the things that you've been doing for so long, whether that's understanding people, understanding family, understanding homemaking, or it's your career, or it's just being out in the world and understanding things better. I wrote in my Buy Me a Coffee posts about the hypervisibility of midlife women in regards to when somebody needs something. People ask midlife women for help. I'll be out at Starbucks and somebody will ask me, oh, is this where this is? Or, people ask me for directions, poor things, because I don't fucking understand directions no matter what my age or gender is. But that, you look more like somebody who would know something because you're an older woman. And that makes sense because you've been in the world for longer. So do not start to think that your wife wants to get a divorce unless you're unhappy, in which case her not giving a fuck, truly she doesn't give a fuck what people are going to think about her divorce. So that is true, and that's why great divorce rates are rising now, as I believe women get to this stage, but they can be economically independent. And so it's pretty different than it used to be when, you would really be ostracized in a way that, I don't care what age you were, nobody wanted to be ostracized like that for divorce. And now people are not ostracized for divorce. So you get past the child rearing years. And if you really don't give a shit, about kind of listening to your husband who you don't like talk about whatever anymore, and you don't get along, and you fight all the time, then you start to not care particularly about what your kids are going to think of the divorce because your kids are out of the house. So for older women, and that's past 40s usually till your kids are fully out of the house, but for the women in their 50s that I know who get divorced, they're like, basically, we were not getting along for years. We didn't even like each other. And now the kids are out, so there's no need to stay together. And there's not as much social disapproval. So, and as I just said, and you don't have that internal thrumming of anxiety, what people think anymore. So those people are out. But most people stay married and they just aren't as anxious about what their husband thinks about everything anymore. And for most marriages, that's pretty good because nobody healthy wants somebody who's scared of every little thing they do and walking on eggshells for fear that they're going to disappoint you. And women stop being that, tiny little scared person in midlife. And therapy can hasten that along. And if you say, well, I'm in midlife, but I'm just as scared of what everybody thinks as I ever was, well, then maybe therapy can help you figure out why, right? But for the average person aging, and this is for men too, by the way, it doesn't come as quickly because there isn't as instant of a hormonal change, but men get more confident with age too. Everybody gets more confident with age because you've had more time on the planet. You understand that things aren't going to be the end of the world. When I go to younger doctors, even versus older doctors, the older doctor usually takes a wait and see approach more than a younger doctor because they've just seen a lot of shit resolve. And that's how it is to be older. You've just seen a lot of shit resolve, and you know that you do not have to bust your ass in all these different ways to please all these different people because most things will be all right. And that is kind of a healthy way to view things. All right, so hopefully I've explained to you some of what it means so that you're not as terrified that when your wife says she doesn't give a fuck anymore. And if this summarizes your internal experience as a woman, you could share this one with your husband. And I will talk to y'all soon. Join the Facebook group, subscribe for more episodes, and I'll talk to y'all soon.
There's a new way to Sweet Green. Meet Wraps. Handheld, hearty, and made for life on the move. With bold, chef-crafted flavors, fresh ingredients, and over 40 grams of protein, they're built to satisfy without slowing you down. Try Wraps today in the app or at order.sweetgreen.com. Available at all participating locations.